Back, my brave and beautiful humans, to another episode of Soul Hygiene. Today's kind of fitting. I don't know if we planned on having it today because I think that was just the only time you had, but for me, it's kind of fitting on Memorial Day to have our favorite veteran, Mr. Justin, here with us. And we were talking before we started, what could we talk about today? But we both agreed that I think the most fitting thing to talk about is what Memorial Day truly means. We will bring it all back to soul hygiene as we do every episode, but I think, knowing what it means, knowing that we are here because of people who died for our country. And I think having a veteran really on the show today to kind of explain that is very fitting for today. So, I don't know how long we'll go, but I'm really happy that he is here with us, and we're just going to start the show that way. So thank you so much for joining us again.
Thanks for having me again.
Well, I mean, you are our favorite veteran, and I try to get you on at least once a month, but you were telling me that your son just graduated, and when is he going into the army?
This week is actual graduation. Last week he turned in all his books and did all the ending of the school year, but he graduates Thursday, and then at the end of June he's off for basic training.
How do you feel about that? How do you feel about him following in your footsteps?
I'm excited for him. As parents, you want to protect your kids. You want to try to give them the safest life possible. But, what I learned over there is when it's your time, it's your time. Mm-hmm. I've seen people walk away from things that you're like, man, nobody could even survive that. And then I've seen people that, you look at them and it looked like they might have blown an eardrum, and a piece of shrapnel the size of a piece of pencil lead just happened to hit them perfectly in the ear. And it's like, you learn to just accept it, that when it's your time, it's your time, whether they're in a car accident or whether they, pass in their sleep. But I don't want to be that hover dad that tries to give his kids the safest, most perfect life, and then miss out on an opportunity to really live. And that's one thing I've always said, that when I go, I don't want people to mourn for me. I want people to know that I lived fully. I had a heck of a life. I've experienced things that most people dream of. So knowing that he is going to have those type of memories, those type of experiences, to me, I'm excited. Yeah, I mean, you get nervous because you know what really goes on. But like I've always said, if you live your life full of buts and what ifs, then you never truly live.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you have that kind of attitude about it. I know a lot of parents, well, I can't say a lot, but I know a few parents who their kids said that and they're like, no, but, and begged them not to do it. But I mean, you're totally right. He's going to be an adult. Number one, it's his choice. But, I think he's following in the steps of his brave dad who was over there, and he's seen it all. He's seen everything you've gone through. So you can just pray that he makes better choices, or that it doesn't affect him, really, really bad.
Yeah. And then so the big difference is when I joined, I had no mentors. Like, nobody in the family knew how to maneuver the military. And he said his biggest thing, he's like, I want brothers like you have. Mm. He's seen that on a Memorial Day weekend, I had a brother that drove down from Michigan, drove down from Tennessee, the other one's from South Carolina, and we all came and had a bonfire and cooked out. And he's like, I want brothers like that. I want people that I'll speak with the rest of my life that really have my back.
Right.
So, yeah, I'm knowing that he's getting to go the route that I always dreamed of going. He's got the Airborne Ranger contract, so he'll be within Special Operations with Ranger Regiment. I I just know that he's going to be living the dream, have any school at his fingertips, be serving with some of the baddest people on the planet, well trained.
Yeah.
At least there, where I know if he does go to combat, he's going to be surrounded by people that didn't just do basic and AITs. They went a step above and beyond of a very, very hard selection program to be in there, and they put themselves through extra torture to be where they're at. And I know that every one of them are trained so well that everybody knows everybody else's next step. So, their casualty rate is a lot lower than, your regular army, just because they know each other's footsteps and they're trained to the T. So if he's going to see combat, I'd rather him be surrounded by people that are trained by the best. So that gives me a sense of comfort.
That's awesome. So let's talk about what today means. For me, like I always post on my Facebook, Memorial Day is for the men and women who have fought for our country and died for our country. But I always remember that they don't always die on the battlefield. A good majority die when they come home.
Yeah.
Which is, has been an epidemic for many years, is that kind of death, So I think Memorial Day to me is very important. I've had two friends that ended their life when they came home, and their families were devastated. They survived these 2 tours and then came home to end it. And I'm being very vague with my words because I'm not sure how YouTube would take it,
Yeah.
But when you look at the grand scheme of things, what does Memorial Day mean to you as a veteran?
It's a day to reflect on everything that our nation has gone through. My brothers and sisters have gone through to keep this nation the way it is. For us to be able to celebrate whatever religion, whatever beliefs we have, live that life where we don't have to fear every single day of going outside and walking up and down the streets. And yeah, it's not just those that we've lost over there. At this point now, the amount of brothers and sisters I've lost here stateside, whether it car accident, deciding to end it all, or overdoses, the numbers are actually, unfortunately, probably more I've lost here stateside. But a lot of it all stems back to the stuff that we've seen and had to do over there.
Yeah.
They can train you and prepare you to go there and survive and bring your troops back, but they don't really have any type of doctrine to prepare you on how to live when you get back here, especially when you don't bring them all back. There's that guilt, that shame, that always question yourself. Did I do everything? Did I push them hard enough physically, mentally?
Right.
Did we go through our drills enough? Is there any, and you get all that doubt and that guilt that you could have done something more. Like I said, though, just a few minutes ago, it's hard to accept that. But when you really think about it, when it's your time, no matter really, what training has been done. And it is a sad day. It's a day that a lot of us struggle with because we tend to think of just the worst part. But if we start training our mindset to look at it a little differently, instead of, look at all the brothers I lost, look at it as how blessed we are to have had brothers and sisters that were willing to give everything to make sure that we came home, to make sure our families got to live the life that they want. Focus on gratitude. Grateful that I got to serve next to some people that are absolute giants, that are in history, that'll be remembered forever. And just know that it's my job now to make sure that they're never forgotten about, to share their story, to share the type of person they were, to be there to answer questions for their spouses, for their kids, for the rest of the time. Our job is to live so their name wasn't in vain. So that's kind of how I've started looking at it is, yeah, I do take a moment of silence and I do shed some tears and have a conversation with them and just remind them how much they meant to me and how much I love them and miss them. But then at the same time, live life to the fullest so they didn't die for nothing.
I love that sentiment. I know that there are quite a few times that I see veterans or even enlisted get upset when someone says Happy Memorial Day or have a great Memorial Day or make it a day of grilling and party. You know what I mean? Like just getting out and having a picnic. What is the reasoning behind that? Or do you agree with that?
No, we tend to build up walls. We tend to become hard and bitter from losing so many, and so many people just see Memorial Day as a 4-day weekend, as a weekend to barbecue, cook out, drink, and party, and just go wild and not have to work. And they don't. A lot of times they don't realize, or they don't really put any thought of what the day is really meant for. And I think a lot of veterans, like I said, they have that wall built up of bitterness, and they allow something like that to bother them. Like people say, well, Happy Memorial Day, and you get a lot of veterans, well, how is it supposed to be happy? This day is to remember all those that we lost. So it's a sad day. Well, yeah, it is a sad day, but it's also a day to celebrate what they've given us. We still have the freedom to go out and party and have cookouts and have friends over, and we don't have to worry about somebody showing up and taking everybody out like some countries would do. Now, I have kind of gone away from wishing somebody a happy Memorial Day. I usually say, I just want you to know I'll be thinking of you this Memorial Day, and I'll be remembering, our loved ones. But a lot of it comes back to mindset, to where you are personally. If you're bitter and you're hardened and you're angry that you're still here, or you're dealing with survival's guilt, then yeah, you might get angry with that. Yeah. When you accepted that they're gone, there's nothing you can do to bring them back, but you can at least celebrate and you can at least enjoy time with family, because they don't get to enjoy their time with their family. I know if I went, I would want every one of my brothers to live it up, spend that day with their family and have fun, and sure, pour a beer out for me, whatever, just say my name. But it's just a heavy day, and like I said, I think a lot of it stems from what type of place that you're in. If you're in the process of healing, then you start to change your perspective on a lot of life. If you're still hard, still numb, still angry, then you're going to look for any reason to let somebody get under your skin.
I love that you said that, because it is, I said we bring it back to SoulHygiene, and that's what we did. Because that's what it is. I have seen a lot of veterans. So I used to say, like, have a great weekend, have a great Memorial Day. And I used to have them just lambaste me for, you know, saying to have a good weekend. And I kind of backed up and tried to see it from their perspective, right? Because, you know, I don't know. I don't have any idea what it's like to serve. I have had friends who've died on the battlefield, and I've had friends who have died at home when they got back. So I think in the same way, people who don't have any idea how that feels should also step back, right? And so now I try to make it a point to say, hey, this is what Memorial Day stands for, but have a great 3-day weekend, you know? But I can see it from both sides now. And I think it does come down to having clarity and having, you know, empathy for the other person. You know, try to understand where the other person's coming from. But yeah, the healing aspect of it, that's what soul hygiene's about.
Oh.
You know, trying to help people understand that they don't have to stay where they're at. They don't have to stay a victim, or they don't have to remain in their own head all the time. And that's hard. That is hard. It's taken me 5 years of doing it on my own to get to the point where I'm at now. And it's been a hard 5 years.
Yeah.
And there are times where, you know, I've talked to people and I've talked to other veterans. It's hard to look at yourself and take accountability for what you're feeling, not what everyone else has done to you, but your responses, your reactions. What are you feeling on the inside, and who are you when no one's around? You know, yeah. And that's a very hard thing to soul scrub.
Yeah,
it's not easy.
There's a saying they say that hurt people hurt people. Mm-hmm. And, you know, and what has happened to you may not be your fault, but it's your responsibility to heal. Because if you stay hurt, you end up hurting more people. And as Americans, like, they shouldn't be tiptoeing. They shouldn't have to worry about how they wish somebody a Memorial Day, afraid of, am I going to get my head bit off, or am I going to get the veteran that smiles and says thank you? You know, they're enjoying their freedoms, and us and our brothers and sisters have done everything that we could to make sure they have that. So why should we bite their head off because they say something that we might not see because we're still struggling? Mm-hmm. You know, we volunteered. Every one of our brothers and sisters volunteered. They knew exactly what we were getting into. May not have been to the T, but they knew that their life was being laid on the line. And we all accepted that. Now, just because they didn't make it back, there's no reason we should be biting people's head off because they have a happy Memorial Day. They just want us to enjoy our day. And that day is still here, and we're still able to celebrate it because of those that didn't make it back. And it is a good day. Yeah. We're here. We're with our families. We're with our friends. We have the ability to enjoy the day how we want, whether we're at the beach, whether we're sitting at home. You know, we just need to, like you said, healing. So many people want to fix everybody else around them because it's so much easier to try to help somebody else. Mm-hmm. But to help yourself and to heal and to process and move through it is very painful. It's very, very difficult. It's humbling because it makes you take a step back and look at how you've reacted to situations.
And I know that you have really worked hard on yourself, especially the last couple of years, to go inward and do all that internal work.
Yeah.
And I'm so very proud of you for that. But, you know, like you said, sometimes it's a little bit too much for people because they would rather see what's outside of them and criticize people outside of them instead of seeing who they are. Yeah. Because it can be, you know, once you look on the inside, you're like, oh my goodness, am I really like this? Am I really saying these things? you're either going to do one of two things. You're going to humble yourself and you're going to get on that journey of healing, or you're going to rush it to the side and remain who you are and live that life, as a victim or as a person who is unhealed. And like you said, and then there's this vicious cycle of hurting everyone in your path.
Yeah, you got to ask yourself, do you want to stay bitter and angry and hurt everybody around you, push everybody around you away? Or do you want to do the painful work, become the old you that takes every day as a gift and be a pleasure to be around? We got knowledge, we got wisdom, we got experience that very few people in this world have. And if we push everybody away, then we did it all for nothing.
Yeah.
So become the person that everybody loved being around, heal, and learn to appreciate their sacrifices and their service, and be grateful for the fact that we got to know them at such a deep personal level that very few people in the world really know what true love is. And true love is somebody willing to give their life so that you can live. And my list of people that I think about keeps getting longer, but I'm honored. I'm grateful. I've learned from them all, and their sacrifice and everything, and their teachings have got me all. All of them have got me where I am today, and that's father that is now sober, that now has two kids finishing up high school. Well, one's finishing next week, the other one's got 2 more years, but the one has decided to make that commitment to serve this nation because of all the brothers and sisters that he's seen that I've served with. And he looks up to them, and he is honored to know them and wants to have that same family that we have. So I'm grateful. So I can really say I'm just grateful, and I'm lucky, and I'm blessed to have served with so many awesome people.
I love that. And I think that's a wonderful way to end the show. Just being grateful for who has gone before us, the blood that was shed so that we could be free in this nation. Because honestly, I believe we still live in one of the greatest nations on the planet.
Absolutely.
You go to any other country, you do not have the freedoms that you do here. And I think that kind of goes by the wayside, or for some people, you want to go live in another country, go ahead, but you will not have the freedoms you have here. And that is because of the men and women who have fought and died for us. So for me, Memorial Day is, I do remember, I do remember. But like I said, I never served, but it's still good as a person who is a citizen of the United States of America, always hold in high regard and high esteem the people who have shed their lives. So I think that you are amazing, and I'm going to be keeping your son in my prayers for sure. And that's awesome. He's following in your footsteps because he saw a really good example. So I'm really proud of you for how far you've come.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Any ending thoughts for today?
When we were in, we partied just as hard this weekend as we did any other 4-day weekend. We would take a moment of silence. We'd pour out a drink to remember our brothers and our sisters. So don't feel bad for enjoying this day, but just make sure you take a moment to remember all of those that have gone before us, to say thank you, to remember the sacrifices that not only they gave up, but that their loved ones have given up. And their loved ones would not want you sitting here beating yourself up. They'd want you loving your family and just taking a moment of silence and remembering their loved ones. So enjoy today. Enjoy every day, because every day above ground is a great day.
Yes, it is. Thank you so much for being here again. And we will have Mr. Justin back on again because he's our favorite veteran. So I hope you and your family have a wonderful day today. And I know you've already done your remembering. So we will see you again on another episode, I'm sure, very soon, hopefully.
I appreciate you having me on. And
Always.
it's been a good time, good journey. So
Yes, for sure. For both of us. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Soul Hygiene. We'll see you later. Bye for now.